Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie-related show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from you right here on our YouTube channel. I'm, of course, your host, John Campea, and this is the show where we just get to sit around and talk about the things we love, man, the things that give us joy. Movies and movie news, TV and streaming, all that good stuff. I'm joined by our technical producer, Jonathan Boyko.
Good morning, everybody.
Writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer Burnett.
You know, it's too bad there's just no news in the entertainment
there's just nothing to
industry
talk
these
about
days,
today.
You know,
And of course, most importantly, you guys are here. Thanks so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. And here's how our show's going to go. We're going to start off and do the first half of the show talking about a bunch of topics we got lined up for you guys. Then in the second part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. If you're watching our show live as we're streaming it, and you have to be watching live in order to do this, but you can send in a topic or a question that you'd like us to address simply by using the super chat feature in the live chat. Once again, you got to be watching live to be able to do it. And listen, as long as your topic or question is appropriate for our show, we'll go ahead and address it in the second part of the show. All right. Now, before we get into our topic stuff here, want to do just a couple of little bits of housekeeping here. First of all, tomorrow night is the next installment of our movie meetups. And this time we're doing it right here in our own backyard. We're going to be doing tomorrow night's movie meetup at the AMC Burbank 16 in Burbank, California. And we're going to see the 7:10 p.m. screening of Five Nights at Freddy's. So if you'd like to come and join us, just go to AMC's website and buy a ticket to the 7:10 p.m. screening of Five Nights at Freddy's tomorrow night. That's Tuesday night, December the 9th. Come on in and watch the movie with us. And then afterwards, I'll hang out in front of the theater for a while just to meet people and take pictures and whatnot. And I hope you guys are able to join us. All right. The next thing is obviously more important. It is Christmas time, which means it's that time of year for our annual Adopt a Family program. Now, this is something Ann and I have been doing for about a dozen years, but in the last couple of years, we've invited you guys to join us. So what happens is we go to the city. They have an Adopt a Family program. They match us with a family in need. This year, it's a wonderful family. It's a mom who suffered a disability, a single mom who suffered a disability. She's got 4 kids between the ages of 9 and 15. And you guys and us, are going to give them an amazing Christmas. Now, what happens every year is we put up an Amazon wish list for all you guys to buy gifts. But as you can see here, you guys bought them all. You bought all of them. You got everything that was on the list. So Ann and I have spent, and Ann's mom have spent the last couple of days wrapping all the presents, but there is one thing left. You can see that we ask every year for some Amazon gift cards. Now, already 133 of you have gone ahead and bought a $10 Amazon gift card. We'd like to get about 120 more. So that way we'd like to be able to hand over to the mom, hey, here's a couple $1,000 in Amazon gift cards for anything else you might need. And then I will personally cut a check to the family as well for other stuff as well. But if you guys can still go, if you look in the description of this video right at the top, you'll find a link to our Adopt a Family wish list. Go on over and buy 1, 2, 10, 100, I say, Amazon gift cards that we will include to our Adopt a Family this year. All right, guys, with all that down, let's get things started off here today with this. Now, of course, we know that there is a brand new Superman movie coming. Superman, which is being titled Man of Tomorrow. And one of the things that we already know about this movie is that Brainiac is going to be the main villain. But who will be playing him? Well, we'll categorize this one under the rumor mill.
Ooh.
We are getting some names. We are getting some names of who that Brainiac might be played by. Like the folks over at Geek Tyrant writing it, that includes Matt Smith and Sam Rockwell. And it actually writes this: if the report pans out, audience could see, and I highlighted this, Klaus Bang, sounds like a porn actor's name, Matt Smith or Sam Rockwell.
And Dirk Diggler.
And Dirk Diggler might be, you got the touch, might be bringing the iconic Superman villain to life. All right, let's talk about Sam Rockwell and Matt Smith in a second. You'll be forgiven if you don't recognize the name of Klaus Bang. But he's done a whole ton of stuff. But the thing you'll probably most recognize him from was he was the big bad villain in The Northman, which I loved that movie.
It's great.
Skarsgård was great. I personally think it might be my favorite Robert Eggers film, like even over The Witch. I love that movie, and he's such a great villain in it. He's got this great screen presence about him. And I saw the name and I thought, you know what? He'd be a pretty good Brainiac. Now look, when people have asked me, and I've been asked a lot, who do you think should play Brainiac? My answer is usually along the lines of X actor and X role. All I really care about is, do you get a great actor? Because there have been so many, Rob, iterations of Brainiac, both in the comics and in animation.
Indeed.
And in TV shows. Like, he's been portrayed many, many, many different ways. And so the best actor to play him completely depends on what this iteration of Brainiac is going to be like, and I simply don't know. That being said, Matt Smith, like a consummate award caliber actor? Abso-freaking-lutely. Sam Rockwell? A consummate, by the way, Oscar-winning actor. Yes, thank you.
Might even get Brainiac dancing.
Klaus Bong? I don't even know if I'm saying his name right, by the
It's
way.
the name of my German new wave band.
Up on the charts with the rocket, Klaus Bong. Dude, I only really know him from the one thing, but he was damn great in that thing. So again, look, this is why I always default to this, Rob. Whenever somebody says, who should play X, I always go, as long as you go out and get a great performer. If you go out and get a great performer, everything else will work out. It's all fine. But I do got to say, man, this list of names is a pretty damn good list of names. I like what I'm seeing from this. Anyway, Rob, you're hearing about this. What do you think about the three names that are being pitched? Have you heard any other names out there? And where's your general feeling like right now for the project?
I haven't heard other names out there, but I think all three of these choices, they all bring something unique to the role. And I think that even Klaus Bong, there is all three of these guys can bring an element of, I would call it unseriousness, because I think that Brainiac can be portrayed really evil, really malevolent. But I think in the James Gunn universe, that could be a little overbearing. I think that there's got to be a little bit more of a grandiose nature to Brainiac. And I think all three of these guys would do great bringing their particular brand of that. Like, look at what I love Matt Smith's Doctor Who, but I also love him in House of the Dragon.
Yeah.
When he can do all of those things. And
how about his performance in Morbius?
Oh, yeah.
Who could forget?
I wasn't going to bring
forget?
that one up, but since you did bring it up, yes. No, I'm a fan of all of these people. And, Sam Rockwell, it's so funny because, like, I was watching Moon the other day.
I love
Remember
Moon.
Moon?
Oh, yeah.
Moon is so good. He's so good in that.
A lot of
And
people forget that was directed by
David Bowie's son.
David Bowie's son, who also went on to direct. By the way, Moon is awesome if you haven't seen it. But then he also went on to direct the Warcraft movie.
He did.
But which wasn't
And Source Code, I
well
think.
received. Did he direct Source Code
Think
too?
so.
I like that movie
I
a
did
lot.
too.
But like with Warcraft, okay, it didn't turn out the way a lot of people wanted it to, but you got to tip your hat because that was a really daunting task to make that movie. Anyway, sorry, you got me sidetracked there with Moon. Please continue.
I think there's a good look. I'm excited. I'm glad that we're going to see Brainiac portrayed on the big screen in grand fashion. That was always somebody I wanted. If Superman Returns had a follow up, I always wanted Brainiac to be the villain in that. I think we had a little bit of a good take. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see Brainiac come back. I mean, I guess we are seeing Brainiac come back, so that's good. Brainiac's never been in a live action movie before, so bring it on. I mean, he's appeared on TV.
We did see him on TV, yeah, with that kind of underrated show Krypton.
Yeah.
Which was, look, Krypton wasn't great.
No.
But it was a really interesting idea for a story.
And they did some really interesting Brainiac stuff in the animated series as well. So I'm excited.
All right, guys. Question is for you. What do you think about this? We've got some names being circulated. Again, file this under the rumor mill, but the names kind of being whispered out there are Matt Smith, Sam Rockwell, and Klaus Bong, who I hope gets a role just so I can say it like that every time we mention the movie. Maybe there's some other names you guys think. Where's Paul Walter Hauser's name, for heaven's sakes? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this. You know, you don't have to have been watching my show for too awful long to know that The Boys is one of my favorite shows, man. I have been utterly gobsmacked and stunned with how high quality, not just the, you know, the over the topness of it and the super hyper violence of it, but the actual story and the characters and the drama and the conundrums and the conflicts. I just think it's a remarkable show. Absolutely fantastic. And we know that it's heading now into its final season. And they just dropped their first full trailer for the final season. And I have to say, I think it is the best trailer The Boys has ever put out. Because, and it's not because of what you might think, like right here, you can see, you know, the fact that they highlight the fact that we're getting a Supernatural reunion in it, which is great. I'm a huge Supernatural fan, so that gets my Ghibli bits kind of percolating.
You think he was directed to have that expression like when he walked through?
I absolutely think that moment is going to be a wink to the audience.
Yeah.
Absolutely, it's going to be a wink to the audience. And as well it should. By the way, for those of you who don't know, The Boys is created and showrun by the guy who created and showran Supernatural as well, which is why you've probably seen like 8 different Supernatural actors appear in the series. But no, the thing that I loved about this trailer was that it didn't play into any of that over-the-topness that is so much fun in The Boys. They focus strictly on the importance of the narrative. The whole emphasis of, we're dead, but we're going to go out saving the world. And like, there's one line that Butcher gives, and I'm butchering the line a little bit here, but it's something along the lines he says to the rest of the boys, if I have to drag your broken carcasses across the finish line, I'll get us there. We're going to do this. Who's in? And, you know, that whole sense, it felt like a trailer for a finale. It felt like we're in the end game. And by the way, seeing different returning characters on top of the new faces also got me very, very excited. Giancarlo Esposito popping up in there. Mm-hmm. He's back, baby. The one guy in that entire Boys universe that is not in the least intimidated by Homelander. Even though Homelander could flick him like this. One of my favorite episodes of the entire series, I think it was in season 2, it might have been season 3, where Homelander basically goes to see the boss and is basically, and the boss is like, I don't care who you are. I remember this line, and he says right to Homelander, as a normal mortal human being, you are simply defective product. It's like he doesn't give a shit about how I love this character so much. Anyway, so he's going to be back. Rob, I mean, look, obviously I love The Boys, so I'm going to get really excited about this trailer, but I really do think this is the best trailer this show has ever put out. I loved what I'm seeing from it. I am dying to see this season. You had a chance to watch the trailer. What did you think about it?
Oh, I love this show too. And before I saw the trailer, John, I was telling you about this. I saw a poster of, you know, kind of like a riff on the Superman Returns poster where Homelander's in orbit looking down on the Earth and there's a nuclear explosion. And I'm like, there it is. And I'm like, I got to see that. And then when I saw the trailer, I was like, is this a post-apocalyptic? Because the sky's dark. You know, it looks like they're like in the woods because they're not in the city. Like, what's going on here? I mean, did the world fall into nuclear apocalypse while seasons 4 and 5 were somewhere? And I'm like, I hope so, because that would be awesome. And I mean, it wouldn't be awesome if it really happened, but it's awesome in the show. And that trailer, I think I watched that trailer like 6 times. I kept watching it going, I just loved all this we're already dead, because they're irradiated. They're going to die of radiation poisoning. We might as well go out.
I think he's just talking about the fact that Homelander.
I know, but I'm just, after seeing that poster in my mind, I'm like, they have to. This is their you know, I can't wait for this. I can't wait. By the way, I have a Soldier Boy and a Homelander 6-scale figure.
Lucky.
Oh.
I'm telling you, I'm going to pit them against one another like they already haven't been.
I
have
that
Butcher,
Soldier
too.
Boy character.
It's
love
great.
The Soldier Boy character.
So
Anyway.
toys, baby. They're illegal, but you know.
Guys, question is for you. Did you have a chance to watch this trailer for the final season of The Boys? I mean, maybe you don't watch The Boys and it doesn't really mean anything to you. That's fair. But if you do watch it, what did you think of the trailer? I personally loved it. What was your favorite part? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, we all know that Avengers Doomsday is coming out December of next year, December 2026. But as many people have speculated, it's now official. Avengers Endgame, a movie that, by the way, only trails the original Avatar by like $130, $140 million in the overall all-time #1 box office race, is going to be re-released in theaters. As reported here in Deadline, Avengers Endgame, it's official. It's getting re-released in theaters next year ahead of Avengers Doomsday. The second highest grossing movie ever, Marvel Studios' Avengers Endgame, is getting re-released on September 25th next year ahead of the release of the Russo brothers' Avengers Doomsday, which hits theaters on December 18th. So about 3 months, which is, I think, a perfect amount of distance between when Doomsday comes out and putting this one out as well. September, great time to drop it. I like that. Now, we all expected that this was going to happen. We all expected that they would do a re-release of Avengers Endgame. You know, somebody recently asked me if I think the re-release of Endgame will push it over Avatar, who the two movies are in this eternal game of leapfrog about who's taking the #1 spot now. And if I thought this re-release would push it past Avengers, I didn't think so. Because, you know, I'm definitely going to go see it. I think watching the portal scene on the big screen with an audience again is going to be a fun time. I'm going to go see it. But to be honest with you, it's been out for a while. It's been a home video. You can jump on Disney Plus and watch it whenever you want. I expect it to make some money, but I don't expect to make like $140 million. Well, hold the phone. Because there's a new rumor that's
I
going
love
around.
rumors.
Yeah, you're pushing it, John.
There's a new rumor going around. And while you still got to file this one under rumor, it's got a lot going for it that makes it extremely believable. And that's this, that Avengers Endgame, when they do the re-release, the word is they're going to be adding a new post-credit scene that will lead directly into Doomsday. A new post-credit scene that will lean directly into Doomsday. And I find this, while we still have to qualify it as a rumor, I find it very believable for a couple of reasons. One, we know the Russo brothers like to go back and do this kind of thing, right? This has happened before. Two, we know that Marvel has shamelessly already kind of done this by adding extra content on the re-release of Avengers before. Remember they did a little re-release? Mm-hmm. And to pathetically and desperately try to get people to buy tickets, they said, oh, but we're adding new footage. And it was hardly anything, but still, they did it. And for the notion to me, Rob, that Marvel would do a re-release, we know that they're doing that the Russo brothers might want to go and add a little something that leads to their movie, that's totally consistent with stuff they've done before. And that Marvel would do that as a shameless way to get more people to run out to see the re-release. Also, check. Every one of those three main things are absolutely feasible. And quite frankly, I'd be surprised if any of those weren't being checked off. So while they're saying this, and it does have to be qualified as a rumor, I'm buying into this one. I'm actually fully buying into this one, which then leads us to the little game of speculation about what could this little post-credit scene be. I think it's going to be very short and simple. I think it's going to be this. It's going to be the funeral scene that ends Endgame, and the last people leave, and a figure comes walking over to the little tombstone. And it's Robert Downey Jr. as Victor Von Doom looking at the tombstone of his doppelganger. And I don't even think there's going to be any dialogue. I don't think it's going to be 2 minutes long. I think it's going to be like 30 seconds. But I think they're going to do it, and that will open the door directly into whatever they're planning to do. It would also suggest, Rob, that this version, this Doctor Doom, has been around laying the groundwork for his plan for several years before we get to the events of Doomsday, which I think adds more weight to Doomsday. Again, I'm speculating here, purely speculating. But anyway, Rob, couple things to cover here. Number one, that they are in fact doing the re-release. Number two, the rumors that they're going to add on an extra post-credit scene to lean into Doomsday. What do you think about those two factors? And what would you guess they might do in this extra new post-credit scene, if indeed there is one?
Well, if memory serves, there is no end credit scene in Endgame as it currently exists.
You're absolutely right. It was just the signature autograph things
the
that
signatures.
they did. Yeah.
So to add what I love about this, if you think about it, if it's true, and you know what, I'm just going to believe it's true because I think, wouldn't it be cool if they did this? Yes, it would be cool. So let's just assume they're doing it, and I think they should. Because it's the multiverse saga, I love the fact that there's going to now be a multiverse version of Endgame that has whatever this end credit sequence is. I think it's going to be bigger than what you described. I think it's going to be something along the lines just like you said, they have a new story beat that they didn't have before, and they're going to milk it. They're going to give us something that's going to be really compelling, that's really interesting, something that we didn't expect or that we didn't know, that I bet they came up with while they were making Doomsday.
By the way, to give credibility to what you're suggesting, to your theory, look at the post-credit scene of Thunderbolts. That was pretty long. Like for a post-credit scene, that was
shot
long.
on the set of Doomsday.
Yep. And so that is what they've done. So you could be right about that.
Yeah, I think they've come up with something good. And I think it's something they probably couldn't fit into the movie. That it came, because they're very iterative when they're doing these films. And they're like, that's too good not to use. Because it could be anything, and if it's set, it might not even be set on our Earth. It could be set somewhere else. The
post-credit scene?
Yeah, it could be set anywhere else.
Yeah.
It's for sure going to give us backstory to Doctor Doom. Otherwise, why do it? You're setting up. And the thing is, there's been nothing. Doctor Doom is being conjured out of thin air, but they've got Spider-Man and they've got this. And Spider-Man comes out first. And in a way, they could tee up. They might have two post-credit scenes to add into the story, which they didn't have before, because Doomsday was going to come out before Spider-Man originally, and now they've changed it. So now they have two movies that could have post-credit scenes that feed in. So I'm excited. I think whatever they're going to do, it's going to be more Thunderbolts-esque, a long scene
rather than a short little one.
Yeah.
That I think they're going to do.
Yeah, because
could be right.
Because I think the short one was Fantastic Four. So you go from Fantastic Four, the next movie is Spider-Man, then a new version of Endgame.
You know what? I'm going to give a hot take on something. I don't think Spider-Man Brand New Day is going to have anything in its post-credit scenes related to Doomsday. I think it'll have a post-credit scene, but I think it'll have something more to do with the movie itself, the Spider-Man movie itself, than it will be doing anything with Doomsday. I don't, by the way, I'm not hearing that from anybody. That's just me as a fan speculating.
You don't think at the end, the post-credit scene, there's going to be him showing up looking like Tony Stark, and Spider-Man's going to say, Mr. Stark. And
No,
he says something.
Stark.
He says something like, no.
The upgrade. No, you know, I know why? Because I'm starting to buy in that Tom Holland isn't going to be in Doomsday. And without Spider-Man being in Doomsday, I think he'll be in Secret Wars. But without Tom Holland being in Doomsday, having a post-credit scene with Doom seems kind of pointless at this point. Again, totally speculating. Could be completely wrong about all of that.
I think they have to have one. There's too much money that they spent on Doomsday.
I don't know. We'll see. Guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? They are doing a Doomsday re-release, or a Avengers Endgame re-release in theater, something we all kind of suspected they would do, but now we have a date for it. And the rumor mill is at least suggesting they might be adding on an extra post-credit scene. And I often don't believe in the rumors we cover here with the rumor mill, but this one I buy into. Whatever you guys think about it, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this, shall we? You know, one of the movies, despite, the overall struggles of the box office this year, one of the films that was coming out that we knew would be box office money was Zootopia 2. Like, that one we knew was going to be a huge success. I wasn't quite convinced it would make $1 billion.
I was.
You were. But I was 100% sure it was going to make a whole ton of money. It's going to make a lot of cash. But I was dubious about it making $1 billion. Well, throw that out. Because after just 10 days in release, this article from Deadline, Zootopia 2, in just 10 days, has made $916 million at the box office. In just 10 days. Now, how does that mean it's going to hit 2 billion? I doubt it, but I mean, oh my God. In a year, it's funny. There have been a couple of films this year, despite the fact that the overall box office has been down. We've seen the impact of that. Again, the studies from Varieties and others shown that like 15 to 20% fewer people are going to the movies right now than they were prior to the pandemic, all that kind of stuff. Despite that, we've seen a couple of films here and there really jump up in surprise. In the midst of all that, Warner Brothers was able to set the new all-time Hollywood record with most films in a row opening to over $40 million. By the way, continued congratulations to them on that. But I mean, oh my God, Rob, $916 million. And there was an article in the Hollywood Reporter the other day that kind of highlighted that right now it's actually PG movies that are kind of floating all the big box office. And this is it, because one of the things you'll never get away from, parents want something relatively inexpensive. And we complain about the price of the movies all the time, but compared to other things you're going to take your kids to do, parents are always looking for relatively inexpensive things to just take their kids to and sit them down. Zootopia 2 is definitely one of those things. $916 million in 10 days. Rob, what do you think about the results it's having, and how big do you think this thing can go on to be?
Well, first of all, like I said, I mean, I expected this because I thought Zootopia 1 was delightful. I love the look of it. I love the character designs. I still haven't seen Zootopia 2, but I'll buy it on physical media. But this doesn't surprise me at all. I don't think it's going to make $2 billion. However, I could see it making 1.5. You know what? I have to agree. I now I'm thinking it's definitely within reach. 1.5 is definitely within reach. Because this weekend it's got more smooth sailing. It's not until next weekend that Avatar 2 opens.
Yeah, on the 19th.
On the 19th. And so, and Avatar 2 is also another family experience. But I think that people love this movie, and they love the Zootopia franchise. And again, it's one of those movies that made over $1 billion with the first one. Yep. People had years to see it. It's become a beloved film, and I think that it does Disney best. Zootopia 2 is what Disney should be doing. It's not Pixar, but that's at their very best. And I think that good movies deserve great audiences and good box office, and this delivered.
Well, I think the real story here is that Zootopia 3 is greenlit. It hasn't been reported yet, but Zootopia 3 is coming.
Oh yeah, no doubt.
100%,
There's no reality in the multiverse that Bob Iger isn't saying, get Zootopia 3 in the works.
Yep. Are they going to put a 3 where the Z goes in Zootopia?
Zootopia?
Yeah, just because
Nice.
it kind of looks like a Z.
Like it.
You know what it means.
Zoototriopa? No, now I'm stretching it. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Zootopia 2 has... Man, it's gonna hit the $1 billion mark before next weekend. That's crazy. Anyway, it's making loads of money. What do you think about this? What do you attribute it to? Are you surprised? Are you not surprised? How big do you think it can ultimately end up? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comments section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that all down, let's move on here on this Monday to play a little round of overreaction. The way
I love this game.
I love this game too. The way this thing works is simple. A little bit earlier today, we jumped onto the channel and we asked you guys if you have any hot takes for Rob and I to tell you if your hot take is an overreaction or not. Jonathan's gathered a few of them up. He's got them in front of him. So Jonathan, what do we got up first?
All right, Robert, is this an overreaction when we hear from that kid? That Avengers Doomsday trailer will become the most viewed trailer of all time.
That is not an overreaction. I would expect it to. We've talked about for months how it's the most important trailer ever made. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to say it is, and it's not an overreaction. That's my answer. But it better be a pretty good trailer. That's all I can say. If it disappoints, I mean, here's the thing now. not only does it have to be the greatest trailer of all time, but it can't disappoint either, because both could be true.
Yeah.
It could be the greatest trailer of all time, but it might disappoint. So it might get the most views. Look, man, I've never expected a trailer. Look, there's a couple of trailers that did. I would say that the Phantom Menace, the full-on Phantom Menace trailer that I went to see The Siege again, and so
The most important, significant movie trailer in history up until this point.
and that trailer did not disappoint.
Yeah, it was awesome.
When you have the Gungans coming out of the fog in the beginning, I'm like, that was mind-blowing.
Oh, so you mean the full one, not the teaser?
Not the teaser,
no,
the
the full
full-on
original
that
trailer to
full-on
Phantom
original
Menace, yeah.
trailer for the Phantom Menace that we all downloaded over 24 hours on the internet. I mean, that was a great trailer, and I expect that level of awesomeness. I want it. Look, I'm excited for this. I can't wait to see this. I want the trailer though to give me. I want it to take me someplace. I want 2 minutes of fully injected Tony Montana-sized cocaine mounds stuck into my imagination. That's what I want. Say hello to my little Doomsday friend. That's what I want, man. I want it in my gullet,
I'll say this.
not like Borg gullet.
We also got to remember, though, that the first Doomsday trailer is still a first trailer. And generally speaking, first trailers are a cut from a certain cloth. Now, as of right now, the most viewed trailer in history, the biggest one of all time, is Deadpool and Wolverine, right? Partly because the trailer was awesome and people rewatched it a whole ton. I'm going to say this is not an overreaction. But there's also, I'm not going to die of shock if it doesn't, because to Rob's point, everybody's going to watch this first trailer. The question is, will they watch it 3, 4, 5, 6 times?
Yeah.
Now, and that will all depend on if the trailer's really good. And to back up what Rob was saying, beyond just the record for the views of a trailer, the importance of this trailer to this movie cannot be overstated. We've been saying for a while, we think this is the most important trailer probably ever in history for a franchise, because let us not forget the lesson that we learned from Alita Battle Angel. That was a pretty good movie. I liked Alita Battle Angel, but it got sunk right out of the gate because the first trailer was terrible.
Yeah.
And nobody gave it another chance after that. Very few people.
It's a cool movie.
If it was a great trailer, I'm not saying Alita Battle Angel would have been $1 billion film, but I think it lost a lot of people right away. They cannot do that with Avengers Doomsday. So yes, I think it is not an overreaction to say this is going to be the highest viewed trailer of all time. I mean, the possibility exists that it won't if it's a bad trailer, but it's not an overreaction at all to say
They
that.
should just set up a gigantic screen on the Hollywood sign and project
show it
it
to the world.
Yeah, show it to the whole planet.
Everybody just gathers in the streets and watches it.
And they pipe in the sound all the way through Hollywood. I mean, I'm going to go right up Beechwood and stand right there and see it. I mean, they're not doing that, but
No,
if
of
they
course
did,
not.
it'd be cool.
All right.
Be pretty cool if you did.
What's next?
John, is this an overreaction when we hear from Something Experience? Paramount and Netflix bid for WB will both fail due to the antitrust scrutiny.
No, that's an overreaction. Look, are there obstacles to overcome and dangers to tread and moving forward and trying to get, regulatory approval? Yeah, there are. But we're also living in a world where Disney was able to pretty seamlessly take over Fox or take over 20th Century. And remember, ultimately, it all goes in front of a court. And, the sides are going to have to show whether one thing does violate certain laws and the other has to prove it doesn't. And with precedents being there with the whole Disney takeover stuff, it's going to be difficult. So, yeah, there are going to be some obstacles if Paramount ends up getting. We're going to talk about the Paramount attempted hostile takeover in just a little bit. Yes, there are going to be obstacles for Netflix, which won the bidding war, and we're going to go over that in a little bit. There are definitely going to be obstacles, but they're going to overcome them. I think this ultimately, it's an overreaction to think either one of them will be halted by it. Anyway, Rob, what do you think?
I think it's probably an overreaction, but if somehow this hostile bid that Paramount is mounting becomes reality, the fact that they own TikTok and they own these other very big communication concerns, not just movie studios, I could see antitrust problems arise, but that's going to happen anyway. They're going to have to, like you just said, surmount those issues, which I think they probably will, whoever gets it, because you've got precedent, the Disney Fox deal.
But even if Oracle ends up buying TikTok, because I don't think they've done that yet, right? I don't think that's a done deal yet.
No.
Anyway, but even if they do, I don't know that becomes an obstacle because it's a different industry, right? It's a
Right, but if you talk about communication, of different kinds, I mean, I don't know. I'll tell you one thing. I wish Oliver Stone makes Wall Street 3 and all about this merger.
all
'cause
about
that'd
this
be
one
dope.
thing.
I mean, imagine all the guest stars he could get to be in it.
Everybody would be in it.
Everybody would be in it.
All right. What's next?
All right. Rob, is this an overreaction when we hear from Renee Fraser says quality-wise, Clayface will end up as a better movie than Doomsday?
I think that's an overreaction, quality-wise. I mean, I don't even think just because they're both derived from comic book characters, I would imagine that Clayface is a more of an a sad look into. It's a character study about Clayface. It's going to be, whereas Doomsday is this big epic spectacle. They're totally different kinds of movies, even though they're both about villains. I think that Clayface is just going to be a much smaller film, so I think that's an overreaction.
I'm going to say it's not an overreaction. For one reason and one reason alone, it's a name. Mike Flanagan. Mike Flanagan wrote this Clayface movie. And as such, the ceiling for how good it could be is almost unlimited. I mean, the ceiling for how excellent this movie could be with him writing it is pretty damn high. Now, again, I'm not sitting here and saying that Clayface will in fact be better than Avengers Doomsday, because again, we know the track record of the Russo brothers and Kevin Feige working together, also pretty damn high. But to say that a Mike Flanagan written project could be better than some other project, I think it could be. So I'm going to say not an overreaction on this one.
I just think it's a different kind of a movie.
Yeah, totally different kind, but he's asking which will be better.
Right.
Yeah.
It's possible Clayface could be better, and they both could be awesome, and maybe, I don't know, we'll see. All right, what's next?
I want to see both of them.
All right, John, is this an overreaction? Excuse me, when we hear from, we just did that. When we hear from Dragon Force, Pedro Pascal is an overrated actor.
I'm going to call that a massive overreaction. I don't even know how you say that.
He's in so many things, it's just so easy to hate on him now.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. Like, it's one thing to say you think he's an overexposed actor. It's one thing to say you think maybe he's an actor who's being put into many things. All of these things I can get on board with. Perhaps, too many casting people are putting him in too many projects. But as an actor, you're saying he's overrated as an actor? Listen, I hated The Materialist. His performance is amazing in it. His performance in The Last of Us are getting awards nominations. His performance, I didn't love Eddington, to be honest with you. Didn't love it. But again, his performance, insanely good. Every time I see him in something, he just kills it. He's always good. So,
he was great in Game of Thrones.
Oh my God.
As the serpent.
As a serpent? That episode where him in the mountain fight, one of my favorite episodes of the entire thing. Look, I'm just saying that if you're going to actually make comment on the quality of a performer that he is, it's all subjective, of course. But since you're posing the question to me and asking me if it's an overreaction to say he's an overrated actor, hell yes, that's an overreaction. It's a massive overreaction to me. Anyway, Rob, what do you think?
Well, and he was in that comedy movie with Nicolas Cage. Remember the
unbearable weight of massive talent or something.
Yeah.
He's so funny.
He was so funny in that movie, and I think the problem with him is that he suddenly became like in everything. I mean, he's in The Mandalorian and he's Reed Richards, and I have to tell you, he was good as Reed Richards.
I really liked him as Reed Richards,
but he was good. But the thing is, Pedro Pascal's more dynamic, but he's being asked to play the straight man in Fantastic Four. I mean, I think a guy like him, he's too old, he couldn't have played, but he's got more of a Johnny Storm-like personality. Mm-hmm. He's a funny dude. Like, he's a funny guy, and I think he's being asked to play these straight-laced characters, and you're kind of waiting for him to open up a bit more. But he's, like that, the unbearable weight of massive talent, come on. And he's great. I like him. He's just in everything.
Yeah, again, so if you were asking the question about is he overexposed, that would be a different discussion.
Yeah.
But is he overrated as an actor? I don't think
so. It depends what he's in. You know, he's like any actor. You got to find the great parts. Cast him in the parts he's best for.
All right. What's next?
All right, Rob, is this an overreaction when we hear from Brussels Dude? The Odyssey will make the top 10 of highest grossing films of all time.
Okay, here's the thing. I would say it's not an overreaction to say that. And you don't bet against C-Note here, okay? However, I would say that this kind of movie and him directing it is probably one of the more risky films in his career. And he's doing a mythological adventure with an incredible cast. So I'm going to say I'm on the fence about this. I'm not going to, you know what? I'm not going to say it's an overreaction because it very well could be. He's a man who's directed a couple of $1 billion movies, and Oppenheimer almost made $1 billion, and Dunkirk made $500 million. But to say it's one of the top, he said top 5 grossing movies of all time, I think that might be an overreaction.
Yeah. Before I give my answer, I'm going to pose a question to you, Rob. Not including comic book stuff, i.e. his Batman films. How many Christopher Nolan films have joined the $1 billion club?
Well, Inception came close.
That wasn't the question. How many Christopher Nolan films have joined the $1 billion club?
None.
None. It's an overreaction.
Yeah.
Like, I think right now the number 10 movie right now of all time is one of the Jurassic films at $1.6 billion.
Even
so
if
that's the target.
Yeah, even if you take Nizar out of that,
Which
then,
you should. Nizar doesn't
No,
belong
I get
on the
it.
list.
But then that bumps the Lion King up, and that's still 1.6.
That's right.
But yeah, and
1.6.
also, even his Batman movies did not come near the top 10.
Didn't even come near that. But what they did join the $1 billion club. Look, so that means the target here is 1.6 billion. No. Look, is it impossible? I'm not saying it's impossible, but engaging whether it's likely or unlikely, it's extremely unlikely. No Christopher Nolan film has ever even joined the $1 billion film that didn't have the word Batman in it.
Right.
And even his Batman films never made much over the $1 billion mark. Look, his triumph, Oppenheimer, didn't make $1 billion. Got close, but it didn't make $1 billion. You're talking about this next one making $700 million more. Look, is it a potential for $1 billion film? Absolutely. But, and I'm definitely not saying it's impossible. Understand this and remember that I'm saying that. I'm not saying it's impossible, but it is extremely unlikely this film joins 1.6. Like, that's just a big stretch. There is no historical data to back it up. I'm going to say it's an overreaction to say it'll join the top 10 of all time. All right. What's next?
Okay, John, this is our final one. Is this an overreaction when we hear from the Red Comet? The Devil Wears Prada 2 will be the highest grossing film of May 2026. The Mandalorian and Grogu and Mortal Kombat 2 are the other big releases that month for context.
You know, first of all, let me say, I love the question because, we ask people to give us their hot takes. That's a hot take. And it's not an overreaction.
No.
And I say that for a couple of reasons. One, nobody saw the last Mortal Kombat movie. I'm going to go see the new one. I expect there to be some repeat business. I expect the new Mortal Kombat movie to do better than the last one did. But even then, that's not a lot. I have expressed my big doubts that the new Mandalorian and Grogu is going to make all that big of an impact at the box office. Is $500 million in play? Sure. Much more than that? I don't know that it is. The third thing is, and I've said this before, oh my God, I think a lot of people are sleeping on Devil Wears Prada 2. Because every woman I know, and I'm not saying that Devil Wears Prada is just for women or that all women like it, but from my own circles and experience, every woman I know are literally like Christmas advent calendars counting down to the release of Devil Wears Prada 2. I remember sitting down with my wife and putting on, the new trailer for Devil Wears Prada. And it's just a simple little teaser. And it ends like nothing happens in it. And I turned to my wife to ask her what she thought of it. And as I look at her, she's weeping.
Dude, it's the Empire Strikes Back of the Devil Wears Prada franchise.
It absolutely is. So that to make a statement that Devil Wears Prada, obviously it's not a guarantee, it's not a lock, but to make the statement that Devil Wears Prada will win that month's box office over things like Mandalorian and Mortal Kombat, hot take, I don't think that's an overreaction. Anyway, Rob, what do you think?
I don't think it's an overreaction at all. Look, here's the funny thing that I wish that fandom, movie fandom, our fandom would get a little hold of. You've got to start thinking about movies that you might not love, but you have to look at them in the context of what they are.
Yeah.
You know, so often
And that other people may
and
love
that other
them.
yeah, and the rest of the world. And I think that movie fandom tends to be myopic in that way. But you've got to look at, we might not be interested. Look, I love the first Devil Wears Prada.
It's a surprisingly good film.
It's a good
It
film.
really
You
is.
got Meryl Streep and Anne Hathaway in it, and you're getting them back.
And it introduced the world really to Emily Blunt in a real big way.
100%, you know, and I hear that the AT-AT scene at the beginning of Devil Wears Prada 2 is awesome.
Yeah.
But I mean, they come right into Anna Wintour's offices. No, I mean, I think that it's going to be a great movie, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and I want to see it. First of all, who doesn't want to see Meryl Streep play a villain? I mean, essentially,
She's sort of more of an anti-hero
yeah,
than a villain.
but still, I mean, I love her. I love her in that role. She doesn't look like she's aged a day in 20 years in that
It's
role.
true. That's kind of weird, isn't it?
She's awesome.
She's looked like the same aged older lady for like 25 years.
Because she's a goddess.
She's the street monster,
She's
man.
the street monster, dude. She's Kramer versus Kramer.
All right, guys. And that will wrap up today's session of Overreaction. Hey, guys, big thank you to all of you who sent in those hot takes. You sent in some really good ones today. Thanks for sending them in. Keep your guys' eyes open on the channel for when we put out a call for more submissions. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this, shall we? Hit me out of nowhere. All of a sudden, my phone blows up with people texting me, did you see they dropped a little teaser for Supergirl? I'm like, what? Now, granted, I got to say, few things in the industry annoy me as much as trailers for trailers. That said, they know this Supergirl movie is a big deal, and they decided to put out a little announcement of a new trailer coming. As we see in the headlines here, James Gunn shares the first Supergirl teaser ahead of the full trailer, and it already looks very different to Superman. Look, the teaser is very simple. I don't know if you got any images from it there, Jonathan, but it's literally just Supergirl sitting there with all the attitude that she first kind of gave us in the Superman movie. And it's just kind of sitting there on a bench in the middle of nowhere. And all of a sudden this spaceship starts to land. It's like, what is this trailer coming?
I love that she's sitting at what looks like a bus stop.
Yeah.
But it's for a spaceship.
Of nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's for a spaceship. Like
Very
okay,
Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
yes, very, very much overtures of Guardians of the Galaxy. Just a reminder, James Gunn is not directing Supergirl. That said, I like the look of it. It was fun. It also shows that they're aware that this new Supergirl movie is an event. It's not a $1 billion film event, but it's an event. And they know people are actually very curious about this first trailer. And again, I'm not saying the first trailer is going to crack the top 10 all-time most viewed trailers, but it's going to be pretty big. I think there's a lot of curiosity about this new trailer. And from what I understand, could be wrong, but from what I understand, it's going to drop on Thursday. Now, I also heard from somebody that it may drop tomorrow. I don't know that I buy that. But I'm just letting you know what I've been told. I subscribe to the theory that it's coming out on Thursday. But if it does drop tomorrow, I'll have to give this person an apology. Some are saying it might drop tomorrow. But regardless, this first trailer is coming, and it may seem like it's kind of out of nowhere. It's like, wait a minute, what? But really, the movie's like 6-7 months away, which I think the right point in time to start dropping first trailers is about 5 months out, 4 to 5 months out, as short as 3 months, as long as 5 or 6. So it's a little far out there. But it is the Christmas season. A lot of people are thinking about entertainment and all that kind of stuff. Not bad. It's not too far of a stretch. So I'm kind of down with it. That being said, I have no idea, Rob, what we're going to get in this trailer. Like a lot of times we know there's a new trailer coming out for something and we'll have ideas and theories. Okay, I think they're going to have this. I think they're going to have this. I'll be straight up. Other than the fact that we will see Jason Momoa as Loki, we will see Jason Momoa in the trailer. 100%, I believe we are. But other than that, I don't know if David Cornsweet pops up in it too as Superman. I don't know how much of it is going to be on Earth. I don't know how much of it is going to be, galactic. I don't know how much dialogue is going to be in it. I honestly, at this point, have no theories. And that's kind of exciting to me because I really don't know what to expect from it. And that, oddly enough, is only adding to my excitement to see it and my curiosity to see it. Anyway, Rob, what do you think about this little teaser? And again, it does drive me crazy when we have trailers to trailers, but whatever, It is what it is. What did you think about it, and what are you expecting, if anything, that we're going to get out of this full trailer?
I'd like to see Brenda Vaccaro and Faye Dunaway in it, but I don't think we're going to see them. No, I think like you, I'm very curious about this because this is the third if you include Creature Commandos, but the second big piece of the new DC universe that we're seeing. And it's going to tell us a lot. We're going to see, like, this is the only glimpse we've had of Supergirl, and she was kind of wasted looking for her dog, kind of goofy.
But I did like it. I liked it a lot.
I loved it. But the story that they're telling is a very serious story. I mean, it's a pretty kick-ass story that it's based on. So I would imagine that we're going to see a very capable, very interesting. I just want to know what kind of a Supergirl we can expect. And I'm curious about that. I think it's not Doomsday level of importance, but I do think this trailer has a level of importance to DC, to Warner Brothers. I mean, it's making a statement that this is where we're going to be at next summer. Come visit us. And I think that because they're releasing it in December, 7 months away from when this movie's released, they're pretty confident. And I like that. I think I want to see what their confidence is all about. I love the fact that we're seeing her in civilian garb. I think that's awesome. I love that. So
yeah, and we are going to get a lot of her in the costume. As a matter of fact, they even showed off the costume at the big Comic-Con in Brazil.
I love the costume.
They were showing that off, and it looks great.
It looks great.
Again, she looked great in it in the Superman footage too. So, by the way, we said we're going to get Jason Momoa as Lobo in it. I also do think we're going to get some Crypto.
For sure.
I think we'll definitely get some Crypto in the
for sure.
Unless I missed the obvious, I'm assuming this movie takes place before we see her in that post-credit scene of Superman.
I don't think so.
You think it's chronological?
I think this happens after Superman. Yeah, I think this happens after. I mean, look, it very well could be that. Remember that Mary Elizabeth Winstead version of Thing where we get into movies. Oh, this does not happen when we thought it happened.
Right.
Like maybe we get to the end of the Supergirl movie and she shows up to the Fortress of Solitude and says, "Hey, I need you to watch Crypto for a little bit," and it is indeed before it. But I think it happens afterwards. So I don't know. We'll find out. Guys, question is for you. What did you think about this? We got that first little tease of the trailer to Supergirl. I thought it looked pretty fun, even though it's a trailer for a trailer. What are you expecting to see out of this? Were you surprised by it? Are you looking forward to watching the trailer? Whatever you guys think, jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? We thought it was over. But to quote Michael Corleone, every time you think it's done, they drag it back in. That's a paraphrase, of course. But it was announced, of course, last week that it was done. Netflix had officially won the bidding war to buy Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers had asked everybody to send in their final big bids. They set them all in. Netflix had the biggest bid. They went with Netflix and said, we are now entering into an exclusive negotiating window with Netflix. And of course, it's going to take about a year for the deal to get done. But hold the phone. It ain't over till it's over. Because Paramount, according to the story in CNBC, Paramount Skydance is launching a hostile bid to try to win over WBD, quoting, of course, Kylo Ren, to finish what you started. To finish what he started. CEO Ellison said, continuing to sound like a petulant 7-year-old child. And I say that as someone who kind of likes David Ellison. It is what it is. All right. First thing we got to address here before we get into the details of what this hostile bid takeover would look like is I had some people in the live chat understandably asking, what exactly is a hostile bid? All right. Basically speaking, the normal process is you approach the board. You say, we want to buy you. The board approves, that you want to buy them, then goes to the shareholders for a vote and an approval. And then you go ahead and do it. But what happens if the board doesn't want to sell it to you? What you can do is try to then acquire enough shares from the shareholders that you then own at least 50% plus one of the shares. And if you own more than 50% of the shares, you can just vote in a new board of directors that will approve your bid to buy it. You get to put in, because it's the shareholders who vote in the board of directors. So you buy enough shares, you get to name who the board is, and you put on the board people who are going to vote yes for your bid. That's basically a hostile take. There's other, like, I'm oversimplifying. That's basically it. So what's happened here is that David Ellison and Skydance are now directly appealing to the shareholders and saying, listen, the management board, the board of governors have said no to us, but we think you, the shareholder, should say yes. And they're going directly at them to try to get them to agree to sell them their shares. Now, with that understanding, let's go over this. Let's get an understanding of the Paramount hostile takeover bid. And there's 5 main points that I want to cover here for us to understand about this bid. Point number 1, Paramount is offering shareholders $30 per share. That is in contrast to the winning bid that Netflix gave them of $27.75 per share that they offered. Now, you might think, okay, well then it's more. Maybe not, because this is the second most important thing to understand. Paramount's bid includes buying all of Warner Brothers, including the proposed spin-off TV division for things like CNN, TNT, all the television. Remember, Warner Brothers early this year announced that they were going to be splitting Warner Brothers in half. On one side would be Warner Brothers Studios and HBO Max. On the other side would be their television divisions that they would break into 2 separate companies. One would be Warner Brothers, one would be Discovery Global, I think it was going to be called. Netflix is only buying Warner Brothers Studios and HBO Max, and they're going to wait till almost a year, about 3/4 of a year, for Warner Brothers to finish spinning off the rest. And they're paying $27.75 per share just for Warner Brothers, not the TV division. Paramount is offering $30 for the whole package, the whole thing. So the $30 per share isn't actually as big of a bid as the $27.75 per share. Paramount is suggesting, and they've said this publicly, that the spun off new company, the TV division company, is only worth $1 per share. Warner Brothers maintains that it is worth at least $3 per share, which again adds to the mathematical conundrum. So the board of Warner Brothers would be saying $27.75 is actually the bigger bid because we are selling Warner Brothers, the studio, and HBO, and we are still, the shareholders are still going to have the value of the spun off TV division. That's how that gets a little bit confusing, but that's their point of view. It's like saying this, Rob. I'm going to sell you my phone, and I also have this remote control for sale. You bid $20 for the phone. Somebody else bids me $21 for both of them together, but I think the remote is worth more than $1. That's basically the situation here with the bids between Paramount and Netflix. All right, let's move on to the third main thing to understand about this proposed takeover. Paramount's David Ellison says that their last bid wasn't their last and final bid, despite the fact that Warner Brothers called for their best offers in the second round of bidding that Netflix ultimately won. David Ellison right now is crying in public saying, you know, I told David Zaslav that bid wasn't our last and final or best and final. We could have given a bigger bid, but Warner Brothers told everybody. Round 1 of bidding, submit in a bid, it's not binding. But then in round 2 of bidding, send us your best bid, because we're making our decision based on this bid. And Netflix had the better bid. My question would be,
well, usually though, then you say, does anybody want to better their offer?
But that's what round 1 was. They did that. They said round 1, send us your offers, non-binding. And then then second round is now send us your real offers because this one's got to count. And they let them know it was the final round. So my question to David Ellison and company would be, well, why didn't you just send in your best bid? You knew round 2 was the binding round. They said that publicly. Round 2 is the binding round. So why would you send in anything other than your best bid? if they end up losing this because
Well,
of
they
that,
didn't send
then
in a
it's their own
second bid, though, did they?
Yes, they
Yeah.
did.
Oh,
Yeah.
they did
They
send
all
in a
did.
second bid. Oh.
Comcast, Paramount, and Netflix all did, and Netflix won. So
As-
my
yeah.
question would be to them, do you not know how this works? Like, if you can't cry that they didn't accept your
Yeah.
bid when they told you to send us your binding bid, and they didn't do it anyway. Point 4 that we have to understand here is that David Ellison argued that Paramount's deal will have a shorter regulatory process given the company's smaller size and friendly relationship with the Trump administration. Now, again, I think it's pretty Bush League of them to basically they're saying the secret stuff out loud.
And not if
But-
you read his Truth Social posts last night. He doesn't.
Yeah, I know. But look, the reality is this. It all comes down to the courts. Like, it's the regulatory boards. They don't get to kill it. They can say, no, we have a problem with this, and we're going to take you to the trade board and court and charge you, and to try to get the courts to stop it. But then it's up to the courts. And regardless of who likes who, if Netflix and Warner Brothers present, hey, this is all legal, everything we're doing here is legal, it doesn't matter if a Democrat or a Republican White House likes or doesn't like the deal. If we are following the rules, you can't stop us. And certain places get in trouble when courts deem it to be violating the rules. But I don't think, as we said earlier in the show, I don't think Paramount would have too much trouble crossing those lines. I don't think Netflix is going to have too much trouble crossing those lines. But I will say this, literally speaking, when Ellison says he thinks the Paramount purchase process of Warner Brothers would be a little quicker and a little smoother, I don't think he's wrong. I don't think he's wrong when he says that. I think he is probably right. I think it will be a little quicker and a little smoother if it is Paramount, primarily because they're a smaller company. So I don't think he's wrong when he says that, although I think it's a pretty douchey thing to suggest that. Be a shame if your nice store here got all wrecked in the middle of the night if you didn't pay protection money. The fifth thing is this. If the Netflix offer gets stopped by the courts, Netflix is going to have to pay Warner Brothers a $5.8 billion breakup fee. Now, the binding offer that Netflix gave Warner Brothers is this. Hey, it's going to take us a year to make this deal. If at any point we walk away, we got to give you $5.8 billion for nothing.
Not a bad business.
But it also includes if this deal doesn't happen through nobody's fault. Because if the government does step in and then the courts step in and say, Netflix, you're not allowed to buy Warner Brothers, even though that's not Netflix's fault, they still got to cut a check for $5.8 billion to Warner Brothers for nothing. And then Warner Brothers can just go, okay, who else wants to bid? And they can just collect nearly $6 billion for free and walk away. And that's important. And you know, I didn't put a 6 point on this graphic, and I really should have. The 6 point that I would probably want to make now in hindsight that we all need to keep and understand about this potential hostile takeover is the shareholders still have to approve it. We talked about this when Netflix won the bidding war. It's like, ultimately, David Zaslav won't decide. And ultimately, it's not even the Warner Brothers board that will decide. Ultimately, it's the Warner Brothers shareholders that finally have to vote and approve it. And at the end of the day, this hostile takeover is about David Ellison going directly to the shareholders and say, vote for mine. And it will be up to the shareholders. It's going to be up to them. Look, Rob, I told you this before we started the show today. I don't think this is going to amount to anything. I really don't.
You think Netflix is going to get it?
I think Netflix is going to get it. I don't think this I don't think this hostile takeover bid is going to amount to much. I know that David Ellison has not been, again, listen, I got to remind everybody that for months now, I've been very pro David Ellison and Skydance taking over Paramount. I've been very bullish on the potential of what they can do. I like his commitment to theatrical. I like his vision for a number of their movie franchises. I am still very bullish on the future of Paramount, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does with Paramount. Okay? That is true. But what is also true is I don't think David Ellison has been conducting himself. Number one, we know that people at Paramount are straight up embarrassed by the way he's been representing the company. And number two is, I don't think the way he's been acting lately is exactly endearing himself to the shareholders and the primary principals over at Warner Brothers or helping his cause. And I don't think it's a great look to saying, we lost, we'll wah. We're going to try to overwhelm this with force and get it. I don't think it's a good look. I ultimately don't think it'll go anywhere. But listen, Rob, if he comes back and says, F it, I think the Netflix deal is worth $82.7 billion. He may come as, F it, we'll just give you $200 billion. Well, then the shareholders are going to say yes.
Well, yeah.
But then,
then Paramount shareholders may say no, but.
Right. That's what I was getting at. At a certain point, he wants to talk about fiduciary responsibility. Well, then you're kind of blowing your proverbial load on this and then destroying your cash balance for Paramount.
And putting yourself in debt.
Yeah, huge
other
debt.
People who are helping to finance your bid.
While the company you just purchased, Paramount, needed to be
Needs
supported
that money.
and built up.
By the way, I was talking to somebody in the live chat before the show started, and they were it wasn't the live chat, it was on the chat board on the YouTube channel. Somebody said, why didn't Comcast get more serious about this and put in a bigger bid? And what I said to them was, listen, at some point, something you want costs too much for it to have value to you. There's an old saying in real estate when you're looking to buy a house, the right house for the wrong price is the wrong house. It's like, yeah, I love that house. $5 million. What? That house is not worth $5 million. So you may want the house. It might be a good looking house. You would love to have that house. But if the price is too high for what it's worth to you, you don't get it. I think the point here for Comcast was they wanted Warner Brothers. They did. But they wanted it for a price that made sense to them. And Netflix and Paramount both were willing to spend on it more than what Comcast ultimately felt it was worth it to them. And they backed out. Like, listen, I would have been very interested to see Comcast Universal getting it. But the price tag got too high and they said not worth that much.
Yeah.
And they backed out.
They're probably so happy right now.
Yeah, and they're probably very happy about it at this point. So anyway, these are the things to understand about what's going on here. Look, is it impossible that Paramount win this? No. At what they're going at the shareholders with at $30 per share, I don't think that'll cut it. But they come back to the shareholders again with $33, $34, $35 per share, which I don't think they will because that's getting into some astronomical money.
Yep.
Here's what I think is going to happen, Rob. This is what I think is going to happen. I have nothing to back this up with. This is my pure speculation. Okay. It could be totally wrong. But what I suspect is going to happen here is this. David Ellison and Paramount are going to be taking a couple more swings to try to get Warner Brothers. And when they see it's not going to work, I believe they are going to quickly pivot to try to buy NBC Universal away from Comcast. Because remember, Rob, Comcast said publicly that their plan was to buy Warner Brothers, merge it with NBC Universal, and then spin that company off. Comcast may be in the market to divest themselves of NBC Universal as it is. So and David Ellison does not strike me as a patient man. So I don't think he's going to be willing to wait around for a year as the whole Netflix buying out Warner Brothers process plays out. I think he's going to take a couple of swings at trying to get Warner Brothers again. And when he sees that isn't working, I think they're going to quickly pivot to try to buy NBC Universal. Again, don't take that to the bank. I have nothing to base that on but my own speculation. But that's what I think is going to happen. Anyway, Rob, you saw the news here. Paramount and Ellison are not giving up on this thing. They want to take another run at it. What do you think about them doing this? What do you think their chances are of success? And what do you think happens ultimately?
Well, this is not my area of expertise, certainly. High finance, just look at me. Come on. But I would say that if I had my druthers, I'd like to see neither one of them get it and Warner Brothers to stay an independent entity, but that seems to be not the case. But I think ultimately that Netflix probably has an edge only because they're a stable company. Paramount is a fairly new, the Skydance Paramount entity is brand new. How stable are they going to be? in a year. You know, they still have to make great content to be a company that's viable, and they haven't proven themselves as an entity yet, and they're trying to go after this venerable studio. Well, Netflix is at the top. Netflix is at the highest level they can be. And if they buy Warner Brothers, they're going to be pushed even higher. They're going to have a catalog that won't quit. They're going to eventually get HBO. It might take a year or two or however long they're going to let HBO be HBO.
And it'll introduce them to the theatrical film market because now they'll have a theatrical
hopefully,
division.
hopefully
so they
will.
say.
Yeah, and look, to be honest,
I don't like the comments about the shorter windows, though.
Yeah, look, Netflix does not want to be in the theatrical business. They just don't. It's not part of their business plan. They are an analytics driven, they're a data driven company. They are not a movie studio. They might finance movies, but they're financing movies that are based on their analytics. So there's not anybody. They would never make one battle after another.
But again, if they do what they say, and hey, for the record, I am dubious about how much I trust them. I am.
Ted Sarandos does not have a good track record of playing straight and
or being honest.
Yeah.
But playing devil's advocate for a second, their claim is that they want to keep Warner Brothers intact and continuing to make theatrical movies and let them and their creative, that includes Pam Abdy, Michael DeLuca, James Gunn, to continue making the decisions, running theatrical, all that kind of stuff. Again, I am very dubious about his authenticity, but if he means what he says publicly, it allows Ted Sarandos to keep Netflix always what Netflix was.
Yep.
And allow Warner Brothers to be something that's different and maybe complementary to what they do with Netflix. Again, I'm playing devil's advocate here, but anyway, please.
I think that's the smart play, but I think ultimately that their analytics-driven business model is going to eventually win out. And I think that the problem is that the theatrical marketplace is not stable, and Netflix and their viewership is. They know how many they know what their subscription base is. They know how much money they're going to get, whereas this theatrical marketplace is very volatile. And while we know that Warner Brothers, if they keep making hits, I mean, they made 4 horror films this year that collectively made over $1.2 billion. And that's money that Netflix never gets because they don't release their movies at all. So that would just be that if they made those movies, they would just absorb the cost, which is, I think, a little over $200 million for those 4 films. They would never get paid back, which I don't understand. I don't understand why they wouldn't want to get that $1.2 billion, get the marketplace understanding what those movies are, and then put them on their streaming platform. That, as we've talked about a million times, but then he would turn around and tell you, but how often does that happen? That 4 horror films each gross, hundreds of millions of dollars.
I mean, one of the things I mentioned I did a stream the other day, and one of the things that I mentioned is that, look, rational human beings have beliefs. And then as new information becomes available, we alter our beliefs, right? That's what rational people do. I believe, while I have my own opinion about Ted Sarandos, I do believe he's a rational human being.
He's a businessman.
He's a businessman. And, I said this to our viewers before. I said, I absolutely can see a scenario here where he recognizes, like, once they get Warner Brothers, keep them as a studio, he recognizes, holy crap, Warner Brothers made these movies for us. Let's say they already own them this year, but those 4 horror movies collectively made over $1 billion. They made us that money, and then we put them on Netflix. And because of their popularity in theaters, they blew up on Netflix, far bigger than they ever would have if we just made them and put them directly on Netflix.
I mean, Michael Bay's The Island is blowing up on Netflix.
Yeah, I mean, and that's the thing. I think what will happen here, because remember, Sarandos said when Warner Brothers, what did he say? When Warner Brothers first went on the market, said, we're not interested.
Yeah, we're not interested in legacy media.
Yeah, we're not interested. Guess what? Oh, yes, he was. He was very interested. And I think when Ted Sarandos and the board of Netflix, I think the reason they ended up putting in a an $82.7 billion bid, it wasn't just to get HBO Max's catalog. You're not spending $27 or $82 billion just for that. I think they recognized that they have an opportunity to have a very complementary business structure where we own one of the greatest historic movie studios of all time.
That's going to feed us.
That is going to give us a new element to our business, which is theatrical films. Netflix will stay purely non-theatrical, but Warner Brothers will be theatrical. And then that will feed hyper popular content into Netflix. And this will be a great symbiotic relationship. I choose to believe, that the logic of this and the businessness of this, because you know, Rob, one of the things that I trust is people's greed. I've never gone wrong trusting in companies' greed. And I think from purely a standpoint of greed, I think ultimately Netflix is going to look at this deal and this potential relationship as something that can be very profitable for them if they handle it right. But we'll see if they actually do that.
And look, you know, if they kept HBO around, they could do the same thing. They could say, okay, we're going to leave HBO intact, but their library, anything that's 10 years old or older, we're going to take off of HBO and put it onto Netflix. And we're going to allow, because that keeps HBO viable. And Netflix gets to mine. Like, I'd love to see Dream On, for instance, on Netflix.
God, I loved that show.
I love that show too. Brian Ben, come on. He was married to Madeline Stowe. He's my hero. I would love to see Dream On come back and go and be able to, and think about all the things that, I mean, that would mean Sex in the City would go. You know, you could, I don't know what their business model is. I don't know what their plan is.
It would be,
Sopranos would go.
I think even Boardwalk, if you said 10, then Boardwalk would be over there too.
Yeah, 10, I mean, and I think that would be, because then you keep HBO intact to make these incredible shows. And then ultimately, I mean, Harry Potter, that means stays on,
right?
It stays on HBO.
Yeah, well, I mean, they have said we plan on keeping HBO Max as a standalone independent service, which surprised me. But they came out and just said, yeah, this is our plan for it. It's like, oh, okay. I guess there are other ways to do it, but
because you want HBO to continue HBOing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
I mean, the problem that Netflix, like we've said, there's not a lot, the movies that they've made, I think the series they've made are much better than the movies that they've made.
1,000%.
And I think that they're in the TV business.
Yeah.
And I think licensing great movies is in their best interest.
Let's just call it what it is. Netflix sucks at making original movies.
They do.
About 1 out of every 100 they make is really, and they have a handful of really good ones. They absolutely do. The New Frankenstein, for example, excellent film.
Yeah, and
but
so is Pinocchio.
For every one Frankenstein, though, there's 99 other pieces of garbage. They are the worst
because they're making money. They're making movies based on analytics and not on creativity.
That's why they want Michael Duluth and Pam
They're like the TriStar of streaming.
But that's not to say I wouldn't want to be in business with Netflix.
Oh, of course. I'll take their money.
I'd love to make shows for them. You know,
that's the thing. Why can Netflix be so good at making series? They're not as good as HBO, but how can Netflix be so good at making series and be so utterly terrible at making movies?
Well, because they're hiring great showrunners. You know, they're bringing in showrunners to let them do what they want to do, and they're allowing, and also they acquire shows from all over the world too. Like, I never thought I would be watching a show about a French family that sells high-end real estate, but I do.
I still don't.
It's good. Don't watch it. You'll get sucked in.
I highly doubt that. All right, guys, listen. Question is for you. What do you think about this? I hope we just ran down and gave you a clear understanding about this hostile takeover attempt from Paramount. I mean, could it work? It could, but I think the dollar values have to go much higher. But then if they do, Netflix has the option to give them a better offer. Look, I don't think it's going to amount to anything. I think this is ultimately going to turn out to have Paramount going after NBC Universal. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But how do you feel about this whole thing? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down into the comment section below and leave your thoughts there. All right, guys. With that all down, we're going to move over now to the most important part of our show, which is, of course, taking your live comments and questions. Just so you know, we've already had a lot of questions come in, so I've turned off the super chats. So if you haven't sent one in already, you can't send one in now. You'll have to wait till tomorrow. But before we do, we've got 2 things we have to accomplish. Number 1 is bid good afternoon to writer, director, producer, Robert Meyer Burnett. Thanks. Great job as always, Rob. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.
Where you go, I follow. Yes, thank you. Thank you, John. This is a great show. Thanks for everybody for tuning in.
And of course, we're going to take a quick second here and thank the sponsor of today's episode of the John Campea Show, our friends at Aura. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Aura. Guys, if you are anything like me, you swear every year you're going to be on top of your Christmas shopping, and then suddenly it's December 20th, the shelves are empty, and you're standing around in Target asking yourself, does my aunt even like candles? But this year, I am not doing that because of Aura Frames. It's completely saved me. See, I always struggled with what to get people in my life, but this year I'm going to give out a couple of Aura Frames, and it's hands down the most personal, meaningful gift that I can possibly give. And here's the best part. Aura lets you upload unlimited photos and videos. Plus, the frame comes in a premium gift box with no price tag, so it feels like a classy, well thought out gift, even if you bought it last minute. Guys, you can't gift wrap togetherness, but you can frame it. So for a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames named #1 by Wirecutter by using promo code CAMPEA at the checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code Campea. This deal is exclusive to our listeners and frames sell out fast. So order yours now to get it in on time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning that we sent you at checkout. Terms and conditions. Thank you to our friends at Aura for sponsoring today's episode of the John Campea Show. All right, guys. With that down, let's get over to your live comments and questions you guys have been sending in, shall we? Jonathan, what we got up first?
First up, we got, who is first up? Darren Barnes. If Condor Man met Sam Wilson's Captain America, how would their different ideas of bird-themed hero clash or mesh? Bring back Condor Man.
I don't know, but that would be a conversation I would pay to see. I would pay to see about,
That's a deep cut.
How
Condor
far do
Man.
we go into the bird motif? Which bird is superior? What kind of materials do we use for our costumes? Again, it'll never happen, but I would sit down and watch that conversation for sure. All right, what's next?
We got Matanu who says, thoughts on the World Cup draw? If it wins the playoff, Italy will play against Canada in Toronto as well, have a game in LA.
I haven't seen the draw yet. Look, I generally don't follow soccer too much, although I must say the last year or so, because of Ted Lasso and Wrexham, I've been getting a little bit more. And I do follow it every couple of years when World Cup comes around. I pull out the Italian flag. I'm only interested if Italy or Canada are in it. The fact that Italy and Canada may be playing for each other is going to be playing against each other is huge for me. I'll definitely be going to those games. Any Canada or Italy games in LA, I'll go to those. But I haven't seen the draw. Like, I understand they did their group drawings the other day, but I haven't seen what they are yet. So no opinion on that yet. All right, what's next?
Taki says Five Nights at Freddy's 2 has a 12% Rotten Tomato critics rating and 88% audience. That's a record discrepancy.
Not really. I mean, here's the thing. I've said this before. I don't really pay much attention to the audience rating because of a couple things. Number one, you don't have to prove. I'm thinking of something else. The reason I don't pay too much attention to the audience rating, I've said this before, like when the Superman audience rating came out, I said, unless it's under 70%, or over 90, I really don't pay much attention to it, mainly because, like, the critics, when critics go to see it, that's just a pure baseline. Like, right? I'm neither a big Five Nights at Freddy's fan, nor am I against Five Nights at Freddy's. I just go to see it because it's a new movie. People who go to a movie like Five Nights at Freddy's are predisposed to liking things like that, right? That's why if it's over 90, then I take note of it. And I go, oh, okay, this is something. If it's under 70, then I take note of it. But anything between 70 and 90, I don't really think mean anything all that much, really. So I don't pay too much attention to it. Now, look, I read a bunch of critics that liked the first Five Nights at Freddy's, and I saw a bunch of the audience liked it, and I didn't. So it is what it is, but I really wouldn't take that much into account, to be honest with you. Unless it's under 70, then that's really bad, or over 90, then it's really good. I don't pay too much attention to it.
Good box
what's
office,
next?
though. Connor says, what are your thoughts? Well, we haven't seen this, but 7th episode of Welcome to Derry. So
Yeah, I listen.
totally behind.
I am behind on Welcome to Derry. I've seen the first 2 episodes, and then I hit the road for several movie meetup trips, and I've been trying to get caught up on things that I've fallen behind on. I'm now caught up on Pluribus, so I got caught up on that. The next thing I got to get caught up is Welcome to Derry, but I'm hearing from everybody that like, oh my God, episode 7 of Welcome to Derry is like one of the greatest episodes of TV ever. I haven't seen it yet myself. I'm hoping in the next like 24 or 48 hours, I'm going to get a chance to get caught up on Derry. All right, what's next?
X-Men Superfan says, why do you think comedy and musicals pair so well? Well, I mean, look at the Golden Globes. I mean, One Battle After Another is a comedy and musical.
Yeah, they don't seem to understand the difference, which is why we don't talk about the Golden Globes. I mean, I don't know that that's particularly true. I don't know that musical particularly lends itself to comedy any more than anything else. There have definitely been good musical comedy.
Because look at like Frida, that's not a comedy, but that was
Greatest
musical.
Showman isn't a comedy. And that's, I think, the greatest musical movie of all time.
Sure.
That's not a comedy. So yeah, I don't know that the premise of your question is actually true. I'm not sure it does. I mean, definitely there's great musical comedy, but there's great musical drama. There's great musical tragedy. So I don't know that one.
Look at West Side Story.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly. I don't think one lends itself better than the other.
But then Singing in the Rain is a musical comedy. But I mean, exactly.
All right, what's next?
We got Comic Fan. Do you think Paramount will take over or it is too late? Also, if Paramount takes over, would it change CNN?
Well, we just spent a half hour talking about the Paramount thing, so there's that. Yeah, they'll make changes to CNN. 100% they will.
Unless they just spin all that cable stuff off.
Yeah, but Paramount is saying they want to buy the whole thing.
Right.
So if they do get it, I'm certain they'll make some changes to it. Which changes and how much, I don't know.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
X-Men says, what are the hardest genres to write, direct, or perform in film? Is it comedy, tragedy, sci-fi, musical, surrealism?
I've always said the hardest movie to make well is comedy.
It's really
because
tough
first of all film is subjective, but the most subjective thing in that art is comedy. What makes one person laugh compared to the next is the widest gasp, right? It's crazy. So I will always believe that making good comedy is definitely the hardest one.
I agree.
All right, what's next?
Brandon Bowers, per Hollywood Reporter, after Paramount announced its hostile bid, Sarando said, when this deal closes, we are in the movie theater business.
Yeah, he did, which is one of the things that I was saying during my conversation with Rob. Like, yes, Netflix has done things a certain way. Yes. But the reason they're willing to put up $82 billion is not just to absorb some HBO stuff into Netflix.
Right.
That's way too much for that. That's way too much. They're doing it because they want to add a complementary business. Despite everything they've said in the past, they want to get into the theatrical business because they have started to see what has become apparently true and obviously true. That movies that play well in theaters will make you some money there, but then when they come into the streaming, they're much bigger on streaming than movies just release on streaming. There are some exceptions, sure. K-pop Demon Hunters, for example, blew up without a theatrical thing. Absolutely, there are some exceptions. But there's the exceptions. It's not a coincidence that out of the top 12 or 13 most streamed movies of the last 2 years, all of them except for one was a theatrically released movie first. If you're Netflix and you want the highest views for your streaming movies, the data tells us that the highest stream movies are the ones that are in theaters first. And I think it's just good business for them. So anyway, so Ted Sarandos saying we're now in the movie theater business. I think he is. Well, and how good or bad he is at it, I don't know. That will cross in a year. But for now, I'm happy to hear it.
But I mean, it's easy to forget that Netflix wasn't always a streaming company. So there's precedent for changing. Imagine had this happen over a decade ago, and they said, we're in the DVD delivery business.
Yep.
That's just our business. Well, they'd be gone.
Yep. So. I mean, they have changed and evolved, and they will continue to change and evolve.
Yeah.
Again, I'm not saying I love the Netflix deal. Okay. Don't get me wrong. I have apprehensions. Yeah. I have some worries about it. I think there are many things. Actually, we're going to do a video tomorrow, probably a topic tomorrow, about the 5 things that could go very wrong with the Netflix buying Warner Brothers deal. So don't get me wrong about that. But there is also potential upside. And I'm trying to be, cognizant of that as well. All right, what's next?
Johnny got lost. Ellison's next pathetic tantrum. Paramount made a website, Stronger Hollywood, to flex to the public that they are better for the bid.
Yeah, listen, again, I say this as somebody who's very, very pro David Ellison and Skydance taking over Paramount and excited about the potential future of Paramount and excited about some of the philosophies that he's bringing to Paramount. If you guys have watched my show, this is true. I've been very pro. But he is not doing himself any favors over this whole Paramount. I'm not saying it's bad that they're trying to buy Warner Brothers. I'm not even saying it's bad that they're trying hard to get it, but he's not going about it the right way. And quite frankly, in the past number of days, he has embarrassed himself. He has embarrassed the Paramount brand, and putting out some public website and stuff like I don't know who your PR firm is, David, but fire them. Whoever is advising you how to handle this whole thing, fire their ass, because this isn't the best way to go about it. Yeah. All right, what's next?
X-Men Superfan says, what are your thoughts on Gene Kelly as an actor? I mean, he was a master showman, and he made acting look easy.
Okay, he was more a showman than an actor.
Yeah.
But being an actor is part being showman, and he was, especially for the generation, he was like the pinnacle of, this is the greatest show. He was a great showman.
Yeah.
And that translated. All right.
We got Saud, who says, thoughts on Dispatch, DSW, and Universal Orlando. So, yeah.
All right. Well, Dispatch, I've bought the game, haven't started playing it yet, but I'm very excited to start. And Universal Orlando was great. I had a wonderful time at it. All right. What's next?
Universal's, I never thought they'd be giving Disney a run for their money.
They are now.
But they are.
Yep.
Nerdy Nate comedy. I saw Fackham Hall this week, and I was curious about that. A mix of Downton Abbey and Spaceballs. Would recommend. I hadn't heard anything about it until my wife showed me a video.
You know, and I had never heard of it. Jonathan, I don't know if you remember this, until a couple of weeks ago, one of our viewers wrote in and recommended it.
Right.
So it was never even on my radar, but I do have it noted down. I might have to give this thing, because you're the second person to write in about it. And it sounds like it's got some potential. So I'll have to check that out at some point. All right. What's next?
H2344 says, met Matthew Lillard at a con over the weekend. Had him sign a paddle. Couldn't be nicer. Also stayed after the con to get through everybody he could. I don't know, though. Tarantino says he's not a good actor.
Yeah,
so.
you know, and did you see he was interviewed, and listen, I felt so bad, because this is the thing about, and I say this as a Quentin Tarantino fan, why that whole thing was so classless by Tarantino. If an interviewer had asked him, hey, Quentin Tarantino, what are your thoughts on Matthew Lillard as an actor? Then I have no problem with him saying, to be honest, I don't think he's that good. That would be fair. But nobody asked him shit about Matthew Lillard. Nobody asked him shit about, what do you think about Paul Dano as an actor? He just decided, out of context, for no reason, I'm going to take this opportunity to crap on some people. And anyway, Matthew Lillard was just being interviewed, and he said, yeah, man, that was really hurtful. Like, what if you're Matthew Lillard and you're just sitting at home eating your morning cereal, and you look down at your phone newsfeed, and Quentin Tarantino shits on Matthew Lillard. It's like, what the hell did I do? And by the way, I've met Matthew Lillard. Couldn't be a nicer guy.
He's so nice.
And I'm not saying he's an Oscar caliber actor, by the way. I'm not saying that. But again, I'm just so disappointed in Quentin Tarantino for being so utterly classless to doing that, because I'm a huge Tarantino fan, man, and I was really disappointed in him.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, what's next?
And I know you're watching, so Steven Spielberg, call up Matthew Lillard, give him a job.
Give him a job. Give him a pet. Give him just give him an attaboy or something. All right, what's next?
Scotty Hale, I have been liking Pluribus. Curious your boy thoughts about it. And that episode 6 cameo was super fun. If you know, you know.
I gotta be honest with you, I'm really disappointed in Pluribus. I watched the first 2 episodes, and I loved the first 2 episodes. But this show has turned into an overly drawn out, excruciatingly slow, nothing happening in any episode, waste of time for me. I mean, like, I'll just give you a couple of examples about why this show is driving me crazy. In one of the episodes, I'm forgetting what the main character's name is. I'm just going to call her Sally. That's not her character. I'm just say it's Sally for a second. You know, Sally calls the others and says, I want this grocery store restocked. Okay. That should have been a 5-second quick boop, 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 and then she's standing in a full grocery store. Instead, they spent what felt like 5 minutes of just this montage of people walking onto trucks and carrying out stuff and bringing it into the store, like 5 minutes of it. Carol. Thank you. Carol's the girl's name. And another thing, Carol decides she needs, well, I won't say why, so it's not a spoiler. Carol decides she needs to get some stones to cover up this patch of ground. That should have been a 10-second thing. Instead, we spent what felt like 5 full minutes of her just, picking up one stone, putting it in the car. Picking up another stone, putting it in the car. Another 30 seconds of driving through the streets in the car. Then getting back to my house and taking each stone out individually. It was just so drawn out for nothing. And then in this newest episode, by the way, the cameo's John Cena. In this new episode, literally nothing happens. Nothing, an hour-long episode and nothing happens.
Did you just give the cameo?
The last episode had this big cliffhanger of her looking at something and going, oh, like something big and shocking. He's like, oh my God, the whole show's about to change. And then this new episode was just like, yeah, that was no big deal. Here's why you saw that, and it was no big deal. Again, I love the premise of the show. And I really like the first 2 episodes because things happened. It had cadence, it had pace. But I gotta tell you, I am now officially tapped out of Pluribus. It's just, the show is just every episode. And I know I like longer episodes, but every episode honestly should be about 25 minutes. Because the amount of things that actually happen in the episodes only justify about a 25-minute episode. It's just the whole thing. Every episode is just this long, overdrawn with nothing actually happening thing. And I think I'm just ready to tap out of it. Anyway, that's just my thoughts on Pluribus right now. All right, what's next?
Ketchup on Eggs says, saw Kill Bill, the whole bloody affair yesterday. This is truly the best and only way to watch this story. Still, even today, such an amazing film. It even had an intermission baked in.
We suspected they would.
Yeah.
Because, hey, again, Quentin Tarantino, he believes in intermissions. He's shown that before.
He does intermissions at like the Vista, his theater, and whatever.
Yeah, and he added an intermission into the Hateful Eight, and I mean, it's good to see. Yeah, a buddy of mine went to go see it in theaters the other day, and he said, man, this is just the best way to watch Kill Bill. I don't know that I can hang in for a 4+ hour movie in a theater, but still, I'm hearing good things about it. All right, what's next?
Let's see. X-Men says, do you consider Brokeback Mountain a drama or a tragedy?
I consider it a drama. Like a lot of dramas will have tragic elements. So I personally consider it a drama. All right, what's next?
We got Andy Brake, who says, can WB make new content for HBO while the next Netflix deal finalizes over the next... Yeah, of course.
Okay, this is important to understand, and this is why I went over this heavily the other day when we talked about the Netflix thing. Get this. Netflix does not own Warner Brothers right now.
No.
They're not going to own them for at least another year. And so until that happens, Netflix has no influence over Warner Brothers, no input into Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers just carries on business as usual if and when and until Netflix actually buys them. But that is at least a full year away. So yes, for the next year, everything just proceeds business as usual.
Right.
All right, what's next?
Sean Lopez with a $20 super chat.
Oh, thank you, Sean. Appreciate that, man.
Says, can't wait to meet you tomorrow. I've been watching since the AMC days. Well, that's where we got our start. That building.
Yeah.
What makes it even better is that tomorrow is my birthday.
Oh, that's awesome.
Have no idea how big of an impact. Oh, you have no idea how big of an impact you have made in my life. Thank you for everything.
Oh, thank you for the kind words, man. I really appreciate that. And yeah, like, as Jonathan was just kind of mentioning, doing the movie meetup tomorrow is also very poetic for us because really the AMC chapter started at that building, the AMC Burbank 16 in the attached glorified storage closet is where we really started. And I mean, obviously I started well before that with the movie blog and things like that, but it was there in that building. And I think it's kind of cool that we're going to go back and do our movie meetup there. So again, for anybody interested, if you want to just meet quick and say hi,
right,
we are doing our movie meetup tomorrow night, Tuesday night, December the 9th at the AMC Burbank 16 at the 7:10 p.m. screening of Five Nights at Freddy's. If you want to come, just go to AMC's website and buy a movie ticket as normal to that one, and we'll just hang out afterwards in front of the theater for a little bit and take some pictures.
Yeah, I don't recall if Rob said he could make it or not. I'll be there.
I'm almost sure Rob will come because
Okay.
he came to the Las Vegas one. He
Oh,
had
there
a
you
great
go. Well,
time
yeah,
with
there
that.
you go.
Yeah. All right, what's next?
Connor Dorian, did you watch the rest of Gen V season 2?
I did, sort of.
Mm.
I never watched the final episode still. I still got to watch the final episode. And I haven't watched the final episode yet. So you know what? That I'm going to do today. Today I'm going to watch the final episode of it. All right, what's next?
Seconds from Disaster says, do you think the Russo brothers are bold enough to start Doomsday with Doom busting in during Cap and Peggy's dance and kill Cap, or both Cap and Peggy? Or he doesn't kill them, he recruits them.
That would be dumb.
Yeah.
We already know Old Man Cap shows up later, so that doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
That would be retconning everything. So I don't think it's a matter of boldness. I just don't think that would make no sense.
Then how does he get the shield?
And why?
Falcon,
Why
yeah.
would he be going after Cap? I mean, you'd have to come up with good story narrative. Now, listen, if there was a good story reason for that to happen, absolutely the Russo brothers have the gumption to do that. Sure, but that makes no sense because Cap survives. Cap shows up. He comes back as Old Man Steve Rogers. And then you'd have to have this whole explanation about why would Dr. Doom be busting into Cap and Peggy's dance? So, yeah, they definitely would do it if they had a good reason to do it, but there's no reason to do something like that. All right, what's next?
Just got an idea of like this cheesy moment, and Doom's like, mind if I cut in? God.
Okay, now I want to see that. All right, what's next?
With a $28 super chat.
Oh, thank you.
El Grant says, hey, John, if James Gunn were to call you and offer you the role of Batman for the new DCU, would you take it?
No.
Taking in consideration that it would be for 10 to 12 years, at least, and the intense workout that would come with it.
No, I mean, I would definitely say no, because I can't act to save my life. But the other thing is...
Just think of what Tarantino would say about you.
But forget Tarantino, the world.
Yeah.
The internet in the sphere of movie fandom, the internet has made the world a much more cruel place. And because I'm not a good actor, hell, I'm not even not a good actor. I'm a horrible actor, right? I know my life would then be about people constantly, the world constantly hating me and online and doing nothing but attacking me, my family, my whatever, because that's what the world is now. I mean, it's one thing to say, oh, I'm not like, for instance, me, right? I hated Kraven the Hunter, right? I hated Kraven the Hunter. But what you don't hear me doing is then personally attacking the director. I'll say he did not do a good job directing the film.
Critiquing it, yeah.
But I don't go and make personal attacks on them. I don't start going after the people who are in the movie. I don't start making certain types of comments about them. I hated the movie, and I'll say I hate the movie. But hey, I wish well for everybody who made it, and hopefully they can do better moving on and doing other things. But the bottom-dwelling idiots of this world have made movie fandom a very ugly place.
Mm-hmm.
And because they have done that, I would never do this. It's part of the reason why, like, a great filmmaker like Christopher McQuarrie said, I'll never make a Star Wars movie. Why? Because of the fandom in it. The fandom's become completely dark and toxic and awful. And so, no, I would definitely, even if James Gunn asked, what an opportunity, but I wouldn't do it because it would ruin the rest of my life. Yeah. It would ruin my life and the life of my family. So, no, I wouldn't do it.
By people who have no understanding of the magnitude of actually making a movie.
Yeah.
Max Newmark says Klaus Bang was really good as Dracula in the 2020.
Yes, I forgot he was in that. You're right.
Netflix miniseries created by BBC's Sherlock creator Stephen Moffat. Stephen Moffat also helped create a show called Coupling for the BBC in the early 2000s that I loved.
I remember that one.
And Mark Gatiss.
Yeah, sure. And by the way, if you go and look up his filmography on IMDb, it is long.
It's huge.
I mean, he is an experienced, talented actor. Again, it's just that for most people, the one thing we would recognize him from is The Northman, and he was fabulous in that. So that's why I'd be totally cool if they announced him as the new Brainiac. All right, what's next?
Perfect Image. Thanos knew and Iron Man knew something when he went back and asked his dad, due date. I'm not sure what that means. Think about it. And Iron Man had a nickname before.
I honestly don't think that will have anything to do with the new Doomsday. I mean, I see where you're going with that, but you got to understand that all assumes.
Oh, due date. Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
that all assumes that the Russo brothers and Kevin Feige all already had a plan for Avengers Doomsday, and they didn't. Remember, the original plan was Kang was going to be the big villain. This was going to be Kang Dynasty until they just totally botched the launching of the Kang character and all that kind of stuff. So that whole thing would assume that all this was in the plans and all this was in the works, and they had that in mind when they made Avengers Endgame, and that's just simply not the case. All right, what's next?
Lone Wolf saw Kill Bill for the first time with the whole bloody affair. It was excellent. The cinematography, the fight choreography, the dialogue, characters, all excellent. Excited to buy it on Blu-ray.
I'm excited to watch it at home. Again, I just think 4+ hours is a little much for me to sit in the theater.
I could do it, but I just don't have time to get there, get back, watch.
Yeah, I just don't. But again, I've talked to a couple, particularly one friend of mine who saw it, and it's like, I don't know how you watch this any other way. This is the way to watch it. And again, remember, that was the way Quentin Tarantino originally planned Kill Bill, was as one movie. And it was the studio, it was the Weinsteins that decided to split into two. Turns out from a business point of view, that was a very wise move because they got to double their money. But yeah, a lot of people are loving it. And I can't wait to watch it. All right, what's next?
Mr. I, there's a semi-post credit on Avengers Endgame. It was of Tony hammering on his armor in the caves of Iron Man. What if the new post credit scene turns out to be Doctor Doom hammering on his armor?
They could. Again, then how does that really mean anything? How does that tie into anything? So I really don't see them going that direction at all.
It just pushes like what we already know. RDJ is Doom. Like, we get it.
Again, I think it'll be, me personally, I think it'll be something akin to what we got in the post-credit scene of Fantastic Four. That I think it'll be without dialogue and quick and subtle, but tie in to what they're doing. So if it's going to tie into Avengers Endgame, tie into the finale of the movie, which is at Tony's grave and Doom steps into picture or something like that. Or like Rob was suggesting, something a little bit more intricate that says like meanwhile and Latveria and like something else transpiring or happening. I can see all that, but just like some callback to Iron Man 1. Yeah, I don't, again, if they come up with a really interesting hook for it, maybe, but I don't, right now, I don't see them going that way, but you might be right. All right, what's next?
Lone Wolf says it was also my first Tarantino film as well.
Oh, seeing it in theaters?
Well, yeah. I guess in general.
Oh my God.
Might I recommend Pulp Fiction and Inglourious Bastards?
Inglourious Bastard, Django Unchained, obviously Reservoir Dogs, Jackie Brown. Just, you can take a pass on Death Proof. Take a pass on Death Proof.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
Patrick says, hi, John, over under 50%. Superman gets similar screen time in Supergirl to that of John Wick in Ballerina.
Ooh, yeah. So again, like John Wick in Ballerina was not a main character, but he was in it more than people thought he would be. Okay, so look, let me alter what I just said. Okay, so I do think Superman, like John Wick in Ballerina, is going to be in it more than we think, but I don't necessarily think as long as John Wick was in Ballerina. Like John Wick was actually ended up being in a lot more of Ballerina than we thought. I think Superman will be in it more than just like Supergirl's cameo in Superman, so I think it'll be more than that. I liken it more into this, because I think John Wick was in more of Ballerina than Tony Stark was in Spider-Man Far From Home or Spider-Man Homecoming. I think it'll be probably more akin to Iron Man and Spider-Man Homecoming than it will be to John Wick and Ballerina. Just a guess, though. I could be totally wrong. All right, what's next?
Wayne. John, correct me if I'm wrong. If Netflix commits to theatrical release, if they get WB, won't that be better for the industry than Paramount, as there will still be 5 major studios releasing movies?
It won't necessarily be better, because like Paramount has said publicly that if they got Warner Brothers, their mandate will be 30 theatrical films a year. 30. That's pretty healthy. So I don't know if on that, like, listen, both Paramount and Netflix have their pros and cons of getting Warner Brothers. They both do. But in terms of what would give us more theatrical releases, I think both Netflix scenario and Paramount scenario would roughly be equivalent.
Yeah, I don't think I think Paramount plans to run it parallel so that that studio is still functioning and putting out movies, just like
much
Paramount
like
would.
Netflix is
Yeah.
planning on doing it. So I think that one's a draw as to who's got the edge, Paramount or Netflix in that particular arena. I think that one would be a push. I think they'll be roughly equivalent. All right, what's next?
Arturo says, John, do you think Marvel will have an Avengers Doomsday trailer launch event? If so, what would you expect? A YouTube live? Well, just don't do what they did for Fantastic Four.
No, I don't think they will. I don't think they will. Now, look, it is possible that they drop it. There are even some people reporting that they're going to drop it online before it debuts with Avatar. There are some whispers going around that it could drop the same day as the Supergirl trailer on Thursday. And that's possible. It is. I'm not saying it's impossible. It is possible. My guess is that they're going to do exactly what they said they're going to do. I think it's going to debut with Avatar in theaters. And I think it's only going to be with Avatar in theaters for like a day before they drop it online. Again, I could totally wrong about that. Nobody from the studios told me that. I'm just speculating as a fan. But no, I don't think they're going to do any trailer event for Doomsday. All right, what's next?
Jake Galbo says, Jake the Galbo says, which villain in Disney or Pixar had the most satisfying death?
By the way, Jacob,
$50,
$50 super chat. Thank you, Jacob, so much. That's incredibly generous of you, man.
Boy.
What was read the
So
full?
most satisfying villain death in Pixar or Disney?
Oh, Hopper. 100% Hopper. Like, even the whole speech Hopper gives in A Bug's Life,
What?
when he's like, he throws the one little acorn. Did that bother you? No. How about this one? No. And then he opens up the whole vat and it's like, there are more of them than there are of us. And if they ever got their act together, blah, blah. And then ultimately at the end thing there with the bird, that was a very satisfying ending. The saddest and most emotional ending was, of course, in Inside Out with Bing Bong. Justice for Bing Bong. That ripped your heart out. But as far as a satisfying ending for an antagonistic character, yeah, it's got to be Hopper. And the most gruesome. Pretty much the most gruesome one as well. I agree. And again, man, thank you so much for supporting us on that level, man.
Yeah.
That's incredibly generous of you. Appreciate it very much. All right, what's next?
Cool says, Ellison will get Paramount. Money is not an issue. Well,
Absolutely, it's an issue.
Yes, it is, because Paramount's in a lot of debt.
Listen, you can't be a simpleton about this. At some point, something is not worth what you might have to pay to get it. Okay? At some point, something simply costs too much for it to make sense to you. Like, sure, just pay $1 trillion to get it. Warner Brothers is not worth that.
Why would you do that?
That is bad business. You
they
are
didn't
going
get to where they're
hurt
at.
yourself.
Yeah.
And by the way, you got these other people willing to help you finance. Great. You still got to pay those people back. So to say money isn't an issue, yes, it is. Now, if Paramount truly believes that Warner Brothers for them is valuable enough up to $120 billion, then yes, coming up with the $120 billion isn't going to be an issue. They can do it. But that's not what's at issue here. You don't think Netflix can come up with $120 billion? Of course they can. But that's not the question. The question is, how much in our business plan is Warner Brothers being acquired by us actually worth to us?
Right.
How much value will it give us? There's a reason Marvel and Disney have not bought back the rights to Spider-Man from Sony. Sony would be willing to part with it for the right price. But Marvel and Disney know that the amount of money that they would have to pay Sony to get Spider-Man rights back from them is more than what Spider-Man is worth. Again, the old saying in buying a house, it goes both ways. The right house for the wrong price is the wrong house.
Yeah.
It also goes the other way. The wrong house for the right price is still the wrong house. But the right house, if you're buying a house, the right house for the wrong price is the wrong house. So it's not a matter of can Oracle come up with enough money to buy. Of course they could.
Mm-hmm.
Netflix could pay much more than what they're offering if they wanted to. But are you being financially responsible? Are you paying more than what it's worth to you? And that is the question that both Paramount and Comcast and Netflix have to answer. And Netflix said, this is what it's worth to us. And maybe they'd be willing to spend a little bit more, but it's not about how much can you come up with. It's about how much can you come up with that actually makes sense.
Because if you take out loans for $150 billion, I'm just throwing that out there. Well, the interest on that is astronomical, and Warner Brothers can't turn a profit to keep up with those interest payments at that point. Like there's a certain point, it's just not feasible.
Yeah, it's a much more complex question about who can come up with the most money. It's not just that. If that was the case, Apple would win.
Yeah.
That period. Apple wins. That's it. But Apple knows Apple wanted Warner Brothers. They were interested in Warner Brothers, but they just knew that if I'm Apple, to me, owning Warner Brothers would be worth this much.
Yeah.
Oh, but Netflix and Paramount and Comcast are willing to pay more than what we think it's worth? Well, then we're not even in. But if it was just a matter of who can come up with the most money, well, the answer is simple. It's Apple. Apple can come up with more money than any of them. But they didn't because it's not worth it to them. All right, what's next?
Sprite. Supergirl. Boo, I'm waiting for the Moonfall 2 trailer.
My God, I will never forget going and watching Moonfall, man.
I forgot about that until just now.
Epically bad. It was so epically bad.
Oh, man.
All right, what's next?
Danny Boy says, John and crew, please tell me you guys watched last night's episode of Welcome to Derry. Can't wait to see the season finale.
I still haven't watched. I'm very interested in it. I just haven't watched beyond episode 2. I've watched the first 2 episodes, but then obviously been hitting the road with the movie meetups, and I have not had a chance to get caught up.
Yeah. You know, I started getting caught up on the new season of Slow Horses, and I totally forgot about it till it's too late. So,
all right, what's next?
Zelda Master. After 13 years, I was finally able to see Tarantino's magnum opus in the way it was meant to be seen. To me, I think it's safe to say The Whole Bloody Affair is the way to watch Kill Bill.
Many people share your opinion on that. By the way, I do not believe Kill Bill is his magnum opus. I mean, if anything is truly his magnum opus, it might, and it's not my favorite Quentin Tarantino movie, but I think you'd have to say it's probably Reservoir Dogs or Pulp Fiction. Either Pulp Fiction or Reservoir. You know what? It's probably more Pulp Fiction. That's probably more his magnum opus. It's definitely not Kill Bill. But yeah, I've been hearing from a number of people that watching it in one big thing as The Whole Bloody Affair is the way to watch it. So I'm looking forward to it. All right, what's next?
Just Johnny with a $20 super chat.
Thank you, Just Johnny. Appreciate that, man.
Yeah. Hey, John, first super chat and viewer since AMC days.
Oh, thank you, man.
Love meeting you at Orlando. I'm the guy who you signed my Thunderbolt steel case.
I remember that.
Told you I know how your voice traumatizes my girl. Thank you for everything you do.
Oh, I appreciate it. And again, the Orlando meetup, all of our meetups, but the Orlando meetup was such a ball. Again, it had some challenges because Disney Springs didn't want us gathering and all this kind of stuff, but they worked it out for us, and I thank them for it. It was such a great night, and I remember actually this shirt that I'm wearing, this John Campea, Good Canadian. It wasn't the Orlando one, but this was a gift given to me at one of the movie meetups by one of our viewers.
Speaking of Good Canadian Kid, I just finally watched I Like Me, the John Candy.
How good was that?
Dude, I actually am starting to well up even thinking about it. I welled up a few times in that.
You know what part I really started to well up at? When Eugene Levy, when they were, after because he was one of the Palm Bearers.
Yep.
And
that broke me.
As they're driving in the car, and Eugene Levy said, because they were on the most major highway in Canada, like the 401, and he's like, where's all the cars? And like, the government shut down traffic on the highways for the John Candy funeral. And that's where I got really choked, because that was when I was a kid. But yeah, if you guys haven't seen I Like Me, the John Candy documentary, watch it. It's wonderful.
Yep.
All right, we are out of time, so let's get through these last ones.
Effin' Raw Flash says, if I remember correctly, Endgame ends with the banging sounds during the crafting of the Mark I mask in the caves from Iron Man. What if instead of the Mark I, someone else asked that.
Yeah.
Wait, does the end credits, because I thought it ended with what Captain America So there's like banging sounds at the end of Endgame?
During the credits. Yeah, like this
Oh.
ding, ding at the very end.
Guess I never
But
caught
it's not
that.
really a post-credit scene per se. Again, I don't see any purpose of that. Like, how does that connect? I don't think they'll do it that way.
Yeah.
All right, what's
Luis, another YouTuber said if we were to believe Ted Sarandos' promise of respecting the theatrical release, we're idiots. Do you agree?
Again, do I completely trust Ted Sarandos? No, I've got issues with that.
Yeah.
I do. I'm not gonna lie. I've got some issues with trusting Ted Sarandos, but I trust corporations' greed. Always. You want the most reliable thing in the world? Trust a company's greed. Trust it. And I believe, listen, just buying Warner Brothers to shove a few more things on Netflix is not worth $82 billion.
I don't see how that would pay the bill.
It makes no sense. It's not worth $82 billion. You know what is worth $82 billion? Adding a new dimension to your business. Adding a whole new sector to your business. And the data proven fact that the movies that have the most success on streaming are the movies that were theatrical first. That's not negotiable. That's not debatable. That's the statistically proven fact. And I think Ted Sarandos, for his own sense of self-preservation and his own sense of self-fulfillment and his own sense of self-enhancement, I trust in the greed there. And the greed says, buy Warner Brothers, let it continue putting out movies theatrically, because then we're going to take those movies theatrically and then put them on Netflix. And all the data tells us that movies that have been in theaters first have much bigger, much bigger streaming numbers than movies that don't. It is in his best interest to do this. And it's simply not worth $82 billion just to buy it to add a few things to Netflix. It's just not worth that. So I have issues trusting Ted Sarandos, but I trust greed. And I think their greed is best met by doing exactly what he says they're going to do, keeping Warner Brothers as its own standing company and allow it to keep being theatrical. I think it's in his own best interest to do it, and I do trust him acting in his own best interests.
All right.
That's just me.
Two more. Jared Clark says Netflix won the bid for WBD. David Ellison lost. He just bought Paramount. Isn't that enough for him? I heard that he'll shut down HBO Max if he buys it. Not going to happen. Take the L and move on, would you?
Again, listen, from a fan's point of view, as a movie fan's point of view, my kind of position on this is I really like what I'm hearing that David Ellison and Skydance's plans are for Paramount. And I'm excited to see where Paramount's going to go. But as a fan, there's a very big part of me that's like, why don't we see how you do with Paramount for a while? How about we see how you just do with Paramount before getting Paramount? You haven't put out a single movie yet. It's going to take time to do that. You haven't put out a single movie yet, and you're trying to add Warner Brothers? Why don't you pump the brakes for a second and let's see how you do with Paramount first? From a fan's point of view, that's how I feel. So I don't know. We'll see. All right,
Last
what's next?
one. Dan V says Ted Sarandos previously said the 45-day window is completely out of lockstep with the consumer experience of loving a movie. Today he's claiming they will keep the window the same, which is hard to believe.
No. People are misinterpreting that. What he has said, and remember, I read on this show his direct quote the other day. What he was talking about was the traditional long theatrical window that I think it should still be, which is 90 days.
Yeah. Minimum 60.
Yeah, minimum 60, but the standard for the longest time, the standard theatrical window was 90 days. It's now down to 45. And sometimes shorter than that, sometimes longer than that. Like, how long was it before Top Gun Maverick went to streaming? Like a year? Or something like that?
Yeah.
F1, they've gave a long runway
yeah.
for F1. Sometimes longer. Ted Sarandos, in the direct quote that we read on the show the other day, is like, listen, I'm not against theatrical. What I'm against is the overly long theatrical window. Now, he said for our Netflix movies, we're going to continue to do our thing of very, very short theatrical releases and then putting them on. But for Warner Brothers, we think our plan is to keep everything the same, which I interpreted, and I think he meant that they're going to just go with the shorter window, which is the 45-day window. Hell, they might even do it a little bit shorter than that. But he wasn't talking directly about the 45-day window. I think he was more referring to the longer 90-day. Again, listen, I don't live in Ted Sarandos' mind. I don't know what he actually means, but I think he's going to recognize that certain things work better than others, and he's going to do what works best.
There's negotiations come into play here too. If you want to attract someone like Nolan or anyone else like on that caliber, then that changes, right? So,
all right, was that it?
That was it.
And all right, guys, that'll do it for today's installment of the John Campea Show. Thank you so much for being here, making our little show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in this question. Especially a couple of you sent in like $20 super chats. We had a $50 one. Guys, thanks so much for your generosity and helping to support what we do here on YouTube. We really appreciate it. Also, big thanks, of course, to Robert Meyer Burnett, to our technical producer, Jonathan Voico.
See you guys tomorrow, maybe even at AMC.
Maybe even at AMC for those of you coming to our movie meetup. That'll do it for today, guys. Bless your hearts, everybody, for being here. May you have a wonderful day. My name's John Campea, and until next time, my friends, bye-bye.